Hi, welcome to yet another episode of A Story for Your Query. We have with us today a multifaceted personality, Ms. Manjushree Patil, who is the founder director of Atman Academy. Welcome, Manjushree.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over today.
Atman Academy is a specialized instruction inclusive school for children with diverse learning needs. It has been ranked among the top 10 schools nationally for 4 consecutive years. Manjushree Patil is a two-time TEDx speaker, a TEDx performer, and a recipient of the ADA Anniversary Fellowship on Inclusive Education by the U.S. State Department of Education at the University of Minnesota. She is also the director and a co-content creator of a course on inclusive education called the Child course. This course also runs in association with the University of Minnesota. Manjushree has been an advisor, consultant, and a chief trainer for a program on inclusive education with the government of Maharashtra, imparting more than 5 lakh teachers from 36 districts of Maharashtra. She is also the country director of Samantha Education India, the first global education initiative on social emotional learning that has been endorsed by the UN Human Rights Office. To add to this, she is a Sangeet Visharad. The list is long. Welcome to our podcast, Manjushree. Thank you for taking time off from your busy schedule to be here with us today.
Thank you so much, Pramila, for having me over here. It's an honor to be in your company and to speak with you.
You're so humble. Thank you so much. Let's start with the question that has been hounding us for long. What made you take up inclusive education when the rest of the world was not even thinking about it?
uh, this goes back, way back actually, to where it all began, the birth of this entire journey that I had. I have been in a space that has always uh, taken care of inclusion, and it's been like a part and parcel of our school program. And I'm talking about way back in 1990. So at a time when there was no segregation happening, we were already an inclusive space. And somewhere that's where my roots are, that's where my beginnings are, and that's where I learned about inclusion without actually being taught it. And I realized that oftentimes we were pulling kids out and giving them services. Rather, I would say we were giving them services which were more like remediation, which meant that they were requiring to change for the world around them. And inclusion is really not that. Inclusion is about accepting people as they are. Nobody needs to change. Everybody just needs to be as they are and just need to acknowledge each other as they are. So, with this entire journey that started back then, there were these ups and dips and ups and dips. I was a principal at one point of time of an IGCSE school, and I realized inclusion was now being thrusted upon people. It was not coming very naturally. And that's when when the student is ready, the teacher appears, as you say. Um, by the luck of, just the luck and the chance that had to make it all happen, I received a fellowship. We were just 7 people from India who were selected for a fellowship by the US State Department of Education. And that really, really changed the course of the way I began to see inclusion, and I began to see the lacunae that we needed to work upon in India. We could do it, but it was just that we had come to a point where we didn't want to do it anymore. So therefore, this inclusion and the whole process of doing inclusive education. So when I started my school, I'll be very honest, Pramila, I was feeling very, very unsure whether I was doing the right thing, because I was still pulling out kids from mainstream schools and putting them in a school over here. And that still meant exclusion. But then over a period of time, and that's what I've even spoken in my TEDx talk, that over a period of time, my own definition of inclusion changed. Thanks to, again, my inputs from the ADA fellowship, my definition changed because I realized we are talking about inclusion always with respect to disabilities and abilities. Whereas inclusion is about people being together, irrespective of whether they have disabilities or they don't have disabilities. So again, when we look at a school, we're looking at learners. We're not looking at disabilities. We're looking at children, we're looking at learners, and we're looking at learning styles. And the moment that is taken care of, that's inclusion.
Beautifully put together. That reminds me of something. I was working in a school, 1986.
Mm-hmm.
I was in, I was teaching the fifth standard, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There was a child, bright spark. Whatever I was teaching, I used to teach them science and maths. Whatever I was teaching, she was the first one to put her hand up and answer.
Oh.
But when it came to writing, what she wrote was Greek and Latin, but she could read what she had written.
Oh. Oh, that's fun. I mean, because it was coming from her own mind.
Which means she was definitely gifted, but she probably had dysgraphia. Now, as teachers at that time, we didn't know. We didn't know anything about learning disability. That's why I asked you, when the rest of the world was not even thinking, you thought of inclusion. Now, what we did was, we were teachers who wanted to help. So, what we did was, we would call her immediately after an assessment and ask her to give us the answers and rate her.
Wow.
What we did then, we didn't realize is what is expected. We did it out of love and passion for teaching.
Exactly. And I will definitely say, strongly second that, because having trained over lakhs of teachers across the country, I know for sure, Pramila, and I say this from the depth of my heart, that there are teachers who really want to help. In fact, not there are teachers, all teachers want to help. Every single teacher that I've ever trained has come out to me and said, but we want to help. We want to do something about it. Tell us what we can do. Tell us how we can help. Having said that, many a times it's the whole system that sometimes doesn't become conducive in the classroom, yes, but the whole system. And I'm not putting any blame on anybody. I'm not talking about schools per se. I'm even saying, families, homes, they cannot really tolerate that their child is different. And that is so sad for the child. I mean, it's okay, so I am who I am. I can't read and spell, but look at my artwork, or look at me in my football. I'm par excellence. So why not you look at me in that perspective? So you're very right when you said that, you did what you did from a standpoint of love and care for that child. And that is really the basis of inclusion, respecting people as they are, and, loving them for who they are.
Yeah. You told us a little bit about your journey. Now tell us a little bit about the hurdles that you faced then as compared to the hurdles that you face now.
Oh. If I had to talk about then, and I'll talk about pre having started my school. So I've started my the school we started 10 years ago. I started it, and before that, uh, very honestly, the hurdles were just the same that I explained to you right now. Many teachers may have wanted to in the classroom help, but a systemic approach maybe at times wasn't ready to support that child, because then there are those typical things, hamara 100% result and all of that. And I mean, let's face it, those are the ugly truths of our own systems here. That was one. Families were very, very difficult and tough with children. How can he not? And the very typical statement that you heard it in Tare Zameen Par, and you're hearing it all. Madam, he's lazy. He doesn't want to do. Everything else he can do. Baki sab kuch usko aata hai. Ye kyun nahi aa sakta? So they don't really realize that these are different pockets in our brains, and we can do some things and we can't do some things. So it takes a lot of work and effort on parents as well. That was the hurdle back then. Convincing people, educating people, giving them awareness sessions, that was a big hurdle, as in that was the work that needed to be done back then. 10 years since the time I've started Atman Academy, there were internal hurdles. Frankly, like I told you, I was myself not sure whether I was doing the right thing, but I'd come to a point of no return where I said that someone needs to get up and do something, be the change we keep reading. So I said, let me just get up and start something first. Let's see where it goes. Literally, that's how I started it. I said, let me first support the learners who I know. Just last night, I was speaking to a parent whose son is doing exceptionally well. He was a child with me and for therapy long back in one of the centers where I was attached here. And he said, ma'am, he owes everything to you. The only one thing that I feel bad about is that my son never got to be in a school that you started. Because by then he had already finished his graduation and everything. So in all these years, hurdles that I have faced here have been very, very insignificant actually, because the joy of actually running this organization, the feedback from parents, the smiles on children's faces of being acknowledged as they are. I take classes. Just day before yesterday, child tells me, and she tells me that I have been very scared. Sixth standard girl. I said, we were talking about fears in a social emotional learning class. And I said, what are you scared of? She said, I used to be very scared of teachers, but now for the last 1 month, I'm not scared. So I said, chalo, that is a big, big deal for us. Another child tells me that I have been extremely scared of showing my artwork because obviously he was constantly being judged. So when they come to a non-judgmental, unconditional space, that's where the magic happens. We don't do anything very great other than that. It's just that we love them for who they are.
General acceptance.
General acceptance. So then now I don't feel that there are any hurdles. Yeah, I mean, there are Rosmarra ke hurdles hote hain. Yes, there are financial hurdles. I'm not going to deny that, because we have issues, when parents are not able to afford fees and all of that, but we don't ever refuse a single admission. Just about 5 minutes ago, I've also just had a word with my admin head. Hota hai. That happens, that parents are, but we will never, ever, ever refuse a child if they can't pay fees. We're welcoming everybody.
Which are the different disabilities that the children have in your school?
So we have a broad spectrum of challenges that children face. We're open to anybody, just about everybody and anybody. That's the reason why we call it an inclusive school. But yes, from among the entire spectrum of challenges, primarily when I started, because I myself, for the last 31 years, I have been working with children with learning disabilities, specific learning disabilities as we know them, as dyslexia, dysgraphia. So primarily we would like to attract such learners so that they get a space that is very suitable for their learning needs. Having said that, we also have children who are slow at learning. We have a couple of children who have intellectual disabilities. Some kids who may be purely on the the ADD, ADHD, hyperactivity or attention deficit. We have some kids who have a personality issue. We have behavioral issues that come in. We have familial issues. Some people have a lot of family background issues for which they choose to be in a space like ours, which is very accommodating. So and that's what I'm saying. After a point of time, once a kid comes into school, what his challenges are is a topic that is limited only for providing services. Beyond that point, it just kind of melts away. We just look at the child and the learning style and what the child needs, period. And in fact, we absolutely forget, and we're like, hey, is this he's certified LD hai kya nahi hai? We don't even remember, because for us he's just a bacha. That's all. Then we have to go back to our folders, and which is a good thing. I think I take great pride that none of us remember what challenges our children have.
That's a good thing to know. That's a good thing to know. That reminds me of a famous quote by Whitcraft. 100 years from now, it does not matter how much bank balance I had, which car I drove. What matters is that I was important in the life of a child.
So true. So beautiful.
So touching, isn't it?
So beautiful.
This is what a teacher is made of. This is what people need to know. There was another forward which came from WhatsApp. There was this teacher who asked, somebody from the corporate was saying that we do this, we do that. What is it that the teacher does? And the teacher turned around and asked him, if you were to get a consignment which is not up to the mark, what do you do? He said, we discard it. So the teacher turned around and said, when we get a consignment which is below par, we try to work on it and bring it on line with the others. That is what we do. We never turn down a child.
We accept them as they are, for one thing, because that's the first thing that needs to be really done. And I keep saying this to parents as well as teachers, but more often to parents, that one of the single most detrimental thing that we are doing today as a society, as a community, is that we are comparing. And True. That's where all the drama begins, because we compare. The moment I'm saying this one against this one, then I'm pitching myself up for pain. I don't need to compare myself with you or with anybody else. I am who I am, you are who you are, and let's just be as we are. Comparing one butterfly to another, Comparing one tiger to another, there are lazy tigers and there are go-getter tigers. Yeah, there are all kinds of people in this world.
There is nobody who is superior. There is nobody who is inferior. At the same time, there is nobody who is equal. You are you, I am I.
That's the reason why we see diversities and uniqueness. Time shift in my own language, in my own parlance also has happened, where I don't really look at people being different. I look at them being diverse. Diversity is just being yourself, whoever you are.
True. Any message that you have for the teachers, for all the good work that you've done?
I am going to, and for all the good work that they do. So for teachers, I'm going to definitely say that every teacher out there is very, very keen to help. And for being able to help learners with diversities in our classrooms, it's important that firstly we acknowledge diversities and we don't look at this whole biscuit factory kind of an approach where everybody has to be very same, because they can't and they won't be. Two is, so once we've acknowledged, we need to accept it, because acknowledging it doesn't stop at just that. We need to accept it. And three, we need to acquire the required skills to be able to handle diversities in class. And when I say this, I'm saying this from a perspective that oftentimes teachers are in class and they have diverse learners, but they kind of wait around for either a special educator to come in or a counselor to come in, and then I will be able to help this child. No, there are 1,000 things that you can actually do in your classrooms that can make your classrooms very inclusive, that can make you feel empowered, make you feel strong, and make you feel that you are really taking the child in the right direction. So my suggestion and my request to all teachers is, please get yourself that learning, acquire those skills. It is important, because then you will feel very happy when you go into a classroom.
I would like to add something here. Teachers can acquire the skills, but I think the principals also need to do that.
Yes. So, yes, dear principals, please. Absolutely. I mean, I know, because as a principal, I remember when I was a principal, I realized that I could have all the kind of thoughts and ideas, but the team can't work. And the team can have all the kind of ideas that it does, but if I don't feel, if I there is no buy-in from my end as a principal, those ideas will never ever pan out in the school. So
Correct.
it's a two-way thing, as well as management. It's a will that has to come from the management. So inclusion is about really looking at the jungle in our school and accepting it as an ecosystem by itself. There's a beautiful jungle, it takes care of itself. I don't know why we use the word jungly, because actually jungles take care of themselves far better than the gardens that we have in front of our homes,
True.
because those need care. Jungles manage themselves beautifully.
It's a beautifully well balanced ecosystem, and the law of the jungle is very fair.
Very fair. Very, very fair.
Thank you so much, Manjushree, for taking your time off from your busy schedule. And it's been wonderful interacting with you. And I'm sure there is a whole lot that the teachers can learn from this. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
My honor to be here with you today. Thank you, and a lot of love and warmth to all the teachers, to all the educators, principals, and of course, children.
With this, we come to the end of this podcast. Any question that you have may be addressed to your query, mystory@gmail.com. Anchor and Spotify permit voice messages. Perhaps you would like to check out that option. That's all for today. See you next week. Bye till then.